Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us. This is episode 28 of Football Then and Now, and waiting in the wings is my co-host and cousin Chris Hume. How are we, Chris? How are we doing?
Just after a few technical difficulties, but yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm good. Glad to be back and doing this again.
I think we need to go straight into your segment here, mate. This date in football history. It's quite a pertinent one when you sent it me. I'm just going to put the graphic on screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, this date in football history, the 4th of October 2020. Take it away, Chris.
Well, you know, as I do, I go through and have a look at, you know, what's happened on this day. You know, could be transfers, could be just a player's birthday or a manager's birthday. But Stuart, not because I'm an Evertonian, or we are Evertonians, that this popped up and I thought, I'm picking this one today. And it's not because of being who we are and who we support. It was the significance of this result. Because don't forget, the year before, well, the season before, Liverpool won the league, didn't they? The first time they ever won the Premier League. The COVID season, should we say. And this was quite of a shocker. I didn't watch the game personally, but I remember the result coming up and obviously then having to chase the goals and what have you on the internet. But it was a shocker for Liverpool because under Jurgen Klopp, they won the league and they had a fantastic season the year before. But to be beaten 7-2, you know, don't forget now, this was a week before the Merseyside derby as well. It was just, it's something that doesn't happen to Liverpool often. You know, them to ship 7 goals. And don't forget, they had all the players were fit. They had Van Dijk was fit. Mo Salah was fit. I think Sadio Mane was still playing for them then. He was fit and he was in the game. Did they not turn up? Did something go wrong tactically? I don't really know. But from what I remember, Stuart, from what I've watched again just before we come on to do the show, they were all over the shop. And Villa, I mean, we're not the same Villa that we see now that just beat Bayern Munich 1-0 at home in the Champions League. Destroyed Liverpool. And it wasn't like, you know, the goals were outstanding and they couldn't be stopped. It was just constant backline errors and errors you don't normally see Van Dijk have as well. You know, getting beaten so easily. Normally, you know, you'd say he's an 8 out of 10 defender each week, isn't he, Van Dijk? But
steady Eddie for him, yeah. When for the most part, absolutely crazy when you look back. But again, there was no fans in, so the Villa fans really missed out. We were still in the COVID times, weren't we? So I think not to say because fans weren't there, but I think there was strange results in that time as well with no fans in. You know, fantastic for Villa, but there was some others. I'm trying to jog my memory back, but this one, like you say, off the back of them winning the league the previous season, no one would have seen it coming with fans or without fans. Just incredible. But yeah,
they went on a slippery one this season. Don't forget though, Liverpool. But don't forget, I think this is the season that we beat them at home, and I think Burnley were the first team to win it with a penalty, weren't they? Under Sean Dyche. And then obviously we beat them in the Merseyside derby for the first time since 1999 at Anfield. I think it was all in this season. I think they had a bit of a kaput, didn't they? And obviously, I think this was the season that Jordan Pickford, you know, did that wonderful tackle to block Van Dijk on the Merseyside derby the week later. But you know what I mean? Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Like this Liverpool had quite a dodgy season. Still managed to finish in the top half, but you know, in the top 4, sorry. But yeah, 7-2 against Villa is it's uncanny, isn't it?
Absolutely. We'll have the segment next week, all being well. This day in football history, Chris's segment, which we always love. And yeah, there's so much stuff on this day actually. But yeah, when you said this one, I was like, oh, I think the Liverpool contingent aren't going to be happy with this. But hey ho, it's in history. It's history. This is what it's all about. And I think a perfect segue, Chris. Performance of the week. Obviously, we've not had a show for 2 weeks, but my word, Aston Villa, who got back into European Cup after not being in it since winning it in 1982 with a fantastic victory against Bayern Munich this week. Incredible. And you know what? From scoring the goal and all the rest of it, I think it was defensively as well. They were solid. Martinez had to make a lot of saves as well. But I thought, especially in the second half, when Bayern were really putting it on them in terms of possession, they stood strong, didn't they, Villa? They were very well organised.
I think under Emre, since he's come in, he has organised him. You know, he's made a few signings, hasn't he, at the back? Really tightened that up. You know, Pau Torres being one I can actually, you know, and I'll stand out and say, because he was a player, he was fantastic in La Liga. And no disrespect to Villa, I didn't expect him to be going to Villa if he was ever going to leave Spain at all. If he was ever going to leave Spain, you know, I would have thought Barcelona, Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid might have, you know, snapped him up. But here we are, Villa have got him, and you see what, you know, he can do. He's a tall lad and he's good with passing. He's actually fantastic with his passing, which is most modern, you know, day defenders. And what we want now is they come out the box and make, you know, decent passes to start the attacking. For Bayern, I was just shocked because, you know, I think they've been much better this season under Vincent Kompany than it was with Tuchel last season. So I was expecting, you know, if anything, it could have been a draw. Didn't expect Villa to win, but it's that man again, isn't it, Duran? You know, he ruined our weekend the other week, but he scored a banger against us. And then he scored again, didn't he, the week after? And then he's now scored in the Champions League against, I'd say, one of the favourites, because Bayern Munich would say is always up there as one of the favourites. But it was a cheeky chip over Neuer, wasn't it? That
the sweeper keeper that he is, but it went totally over. Chris, I'm not taking it away from Duran. The finish was fantastic, but Neuer, you know, he's played like that. He's famed for it, and that's the modern keeper in a lot of ways. But I was like, oh my god! But still, a fantastic finish. I'm not taking anything away from John Duran, and he is the modern day super sub at the moment.
Yeah, he is.
It's just crazy the impact they had off the bench. Obviously, it wasn't working. Emery wanted a goal. Big call taking Watkins off, but they prevailed, didn't they? They prevailed with it. They got that goal. And just defensively, I couldn't get over it. I think Diego Carlos was fantastic as well. Luca Digne with these crosses, I've noticed even against us, you know, he had that in his arsenal for us, didn't he, as well? They were just brilliant across the park, because there was long periods where they didn't have the ball. And I think they knew that was going to happen the way Bayern play. But again, Emery, just the European nous from Emery and Kompany, I'm sure will learn from this as well going forward. But what a start for Villa, 6 points from their first two in the new league format, the 36-team league format. So, I mean, they reckon 15 to 16 points over your 8 games will get you in the top 8. So do you think, you know, they'll need to really find 9 or 10 points now from the next 6?
Well, they've given themselves a good start, haven't they? It's a good platform for Villa now, as you say. They've got, 8 games left to play? And they're on 6 already. You know what I mean? They can, you know, take a few draws if need be against the bigger teams. I don't know. Obviously, I can't remember who else they've got in their fixture list for the Champions League.
Celtic is one of them. Celtic got absolutely slaughtered in Dortmund. 7-1, wasn't it, by the end of it? I know Celtic.
I didn't see that, no. That's not good, is it, for Celtic? Are they playing Celtic home or away?
I think it's at Villa Park, if memory serves, because when I had when I had Anton about Villa, we were going through the list of games. They've got Bologna as well. Obviously, Liverpool have played Bologna, so there is winnable games there. I think if they get 3 more wins out of the 6, I think that could be them. I mean, there's a long way to go. There's a lot of football to be played.
No, of course.
But you'd say they've got a good shout of not having to go through that playoff round. You know, if you're in the top 8, you're through to the last 16, aren't you? And then from 9 to 20 something is then, you know, you're in a playoff round trying to get into the last 16. But yeah, I just couldn't get over the performance, Chris. Not to say I didn't think that could happen. We know what Emery's done. Over the years, I think it's just tactical nous, and you know, he's so battle tested in the competitions, isn't he?
Well, yeah, we've seen the dominance he had in the Europa League with Seville for all those years, and it was one after the other, wasn't it? Yeah, he knows how to play European football. I think I don't understand what happened with them last season, really, because I thought under Emre they probably would have won the conference they were in last season, but obviously it wasn't to be. But if they carry on playing the way they are in the Champions League, I'd say the dark horses at the moment. I know it's still early days, but I don't think people were going into this new format of the Champions League and looking at who was in and who they've got. That would they think Villa are up there, with 2 wins out of 2 and one being Bayern Munich.
It's an incredible start, to get 6 points on the board, to be 100%, in going into that. I mean, again, it's a long process now. And you play these 6 games up until Christmas, but then they've got to then come back and play the other 2 in January. Again, this age-old argument that we've had on the time doing this show, it's these international breaks.
Yeah.
When there's not a tournament on in the summer, I know this Club World Cup thing is going to be happening next summer, so they won't be able to play extra games. I just think the format now where they've got to then come out of Christmas and play another 2 in January is a bit weird to me, but it's something new, isn't it? We're not used to this format. We're going to get used to it, of course. What do you think with the 8 games, but then you've still got to play 2 in January before getting qualified? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I remember rightly in the original, your last games would be around December, wouldn't it? In the normal period of the old system of the Champions League, which made sense because then you're going into the new year, you're going into your knockouts, aren't you? I'm still understanding the league, and I remember I do play a lot of Football Manager, and Football Manager obviously used the phase of the new system on the game of last year, Football Manager 2024, and so I understand it in that context. But then obviously seeing it in real life, you're sort of still having to chase people, as I say. I'm asking you who's playing and who they got in their fixture list, because it's quite confusing. You got all these teams, but not all of them are playing against each other. But as you say, 6 games before Christmas and then 2 after it's a bit of a funny one, because then you're just packing in a lot of games going forward again. Then for the teams that are still involved in the competition, for me, if we're going to do that, then I think as a football community in Europe or in the world, we need to maybe cut down in December in the league terms, maybe, and give it a break, because obviously people have been asking for a winter break for a long time. Especially anyone who plays in the Premier League or in the UK pyramid, is that we all hefty in the December period, aren't we? As an English club or English leagues. So maybe we need to look at something like that helps players then rest a tiny bit before they kick on again in the new year. But obviously,
Europa League's at the same amount of teams as well, and Conference League. You've got 36 in all there, so you've got teams there. They're going to be thinking about domestic form as well. Teams that haven't got the squads of the elite teams. But again, to paraphrase and go back into this Club World Cup, I was reading City and Chelsea have got to take their strongest teams to that tournament next summer. But that is the off-season for everybody else.
Right.
They've been requested by FIFA. They must submit the strongest teams, pending any injuries and things like that. I mean, you can have 2 squads effectively, Chris, and we've said about the teams that can do that, but I just think the amount of games. Son has spoken out about the amount of games. He says, we get paid fantastically well, but a lot of these elite players are saying how much of a strain it is, all these extra things they're having to do. So I don't know. It's the age-old argument. Fans and football pundits and football journalists are saying, well, they're getting paid a fortune to play, but and then it's coming across as they're moaning. But I just took Son's comments, from what he was saying. What do you think about that? The extra matches that they're playing?
Obviously, yeah, okay. I agree with the part where people will say that they are getting paid 200, 300, or some of them are getting paid in Saudi 900,000 to 800,000 a week, but at the same time they are only humans, and you wouldn't like it as you were working and you were only getting 2 weeks off for a year, because that's pretty much what they get, don't they? 2 weeks off at a push. I do think there's a lot of games, and I think you will eventually start seeing players burn out. And I think we have seen, I'd say the Alex Harry Kane over the years when he has gone into tournaments, especially for England. he's burnt out, and I think you look, maybe just look back at the one we just had last summer. Wasn't the same player. I know he's getting older, and obviously things are changing for him as you do get older. Obviously, England are playing a different way, but these players are playing so many games, and there's no rest period for them. It's just constant go, 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 go. I just think at some point we've got to have a break and think, okay, mentally for these players, yeah, they might not be on fantastic money, but they need a break, because we're going to start going to a point where the Premier League starts next August, and after teams, as much as they do the pre-season training, pre-season friendlies, a lot of these players could be still tired, still knackered. They haven't had a proper rest. And then our league then suffers, our team will suffer, or the next team suffers just because of burnout. And I just think that, as a whole, the Premier League needs to look at a point where they give enough these players, every player actually, enough time to have a rest before, things start again. And I think what they did a few years ago when we had that break in January, and I thought that was something they were going to do going forward. But obviously they haven't now, have they? It just makes more sense, and I think this is why the likes of German teams are much better, because they have that massive break in December, and then they come back. And you've seen it in international football, where all these teams have had significant breaks over the Christmas period. They always seem to be better than what we are.
It's crazy. I was watching Spurs because they were the early game last night, and he's played Porro, he's played Romero. Vicario was in goal. All right, he played quite a lot of the young players as well. But to see them and get them over the line, he brought Brennan Johnson on. Do you know what I mean? He was, he probably didn't want to. He probably didn't want to bring him on. Maddison came on as well. Later on, don't get me wrong, and they got over the line and beat Ferencvaros 2-1. But I just think players are playing a lot in a week now. Porro will start the weekend. He's a starter, isn't he? Romero, Vicario, of course. So there is players there that aren't getting a break. But, Tottenham, obviously, Ange wants them fighting on all fronts, doesn't he? He wants that. And I just think it's an age-old argument, and people are very quick to say, oh, but they're getting paid this, that, and the other. But it's what they put into the matches, isn't it? It's crazy, the fitness levels and stuff. And then it's injuries then as well. If someone's not quite right, they're going to have a sustained period, out, which there's many arguments to this. And I think it's all too easy for everyone to say, well, he's getting paid, 5-6 figures a week. That's easy for us to say. But it's everything that comes with being a professional footballer, isn't it? The build-up to it, the training, everything. Sorry.
No, but you're right. You're completely right. And I agree. Let's put aside of what they get paid. They are only human. I mean, a normal human works a 5-day week at a push, don't they? And then they have 2 days off, whether it's the weekend or broken up in the week. You don't really see football players having that. They're in for training morning, afternoon, and then it's either they're travelling or they're setting up for a game, for the weekend or midweek is as the fixtures go along. I still think they need a break. I think, we are seeing a lot more injuries happen now in football terms. Look at the likes of Rodri. I think, was he out now for the season pretty much?
He is. That's him done.
And that's absolutely sad because, we spoke about Rodri last season and, we flied the flag for him because he was outstanding and he was one of those special players. And now it's sad, not only for Man City and their supporters, but for us neutrals who like watching decent, elite players play, and you can't watch him this season because, maybe he had too many fixtures. Because I don't really see much of Rodri ever really being injured to a point where it's ended his season before. So this is obviously a first, from my knowledge anyway. I think we need to take care of our players. I think every player, the FA needs to sort of come up with a plan where they can work better for the players so they're not playing so much. But, at the end of the day, I don't see it coming because the money's too much for them to take.
We're giving the teams, going back to European competition stuff, we're giving the teams X amount of million per extra game. Well, yeah, okay, yeah, all right. And that's fair enough. But that shouldn't be the thing. But again, like you said, we knew about this format changing with those tournaments. It was on Football Manager well ahead, because I looked the first time. Hey, we're in a massive league here. I didn't know. I hadn't heard about it. Obviously, it'd been portrayed in the press, of course, but I must have missed it somewhere. I couldn't get my head around it. I thought it was like a format that Football Manager just brought in. Didn't realise it was like a licensed thing that was happening. But again, just as you say, City have got the squad and the players, but my God, even with those players that they've got in there, him being out is just huge, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's crazy. It's crazy, and I'm sure they'll adapt and they'll have to change some things, won't they? But it's crazy, because he's a model professional. He's a genuine person, isn't he, as well?
It's just sad, because again, you don't want to see these players get injured and then that's their season done, or half a season's done, because horrific the injuries can be. It's a shame for football, because like I said, we like to see these players play, and it's exciting. Just watch them play. You know what I mean? But if they're playing so much and now these injuries are occurring, you're not going to see them, and then that then ruins their career pretty much, because they lose a season. Do they come back the same player after a horrific injury? It's a load of tangibles, isn't it? It's just a shame, but I do agree in aspects that that they should have more breaks and more time just to be, with the families or whatever they do, but just to chill out and recharge batteries instead of being on the go 24/7 until what? We're looking at June, isn't it? They have June, and then pretty much the end of June, you're in July, and then you're back into the same old system.
That's it. I'm just going to move us on just because of time and stuff. I don't think we'll go into too much depth for the Player of the Month nominees.
Okay.
We'll look through who's on there. Obviously, I voted for a certain someone on here, Chris, out of loyalty. I put my vote in this morning. I think you'll know straight away who I voted for on there. Dwight McNeil has been brilliant. With all the bad stuff that's been going on with us, dropping leads and things like that. The amount of goals he's put and assists in already is quite remarkable, isn't it?
I don't understand what's gone on there, other than the most standout point here would be that we've missed Jared Branthwaite, and you saw that last weekend when he came back in. Sadly, now from what news is coming out, that he's not fit and he's injured for this weekend against Newcastle, which is going to be a struggle, obviously, because Michael Keane isn't someone we cherish having next to Tarkowski. But if you're talking about Dwight McNeil, I think since he's moved to that 10 position, it's opened up a bit more for his style. Okay, he's not the fastest player in the world, but he's very good on the ball. Very left-footed, obviously. We all know this, but that left foot last weekend scored 2 fantastic goals, especially the first one. I like the second one more, just because of how tight it was and how he sort of brought it down and then volleyed it past the keeper. The only problem he's got here, and for this nomination, Stuart, is a person that scored 4 goals in literally 20 minutes.
Yeah, bro, that's a record as well. No one's ever done that. Cole Palmer and assists as well to beat with him. I would say he's the front runner, but again, I've been very impressed. Ollie Watkins had a bit of a slow start. Obviously, put the header in against us at Villa Park, didn't he? Yeah. So he's kicking on well. I took him out of my fantasy team, Chris. I've done the usual. I took people out and they've started bloody playing. So obviously, I think on that list there, I think Cole Palmer will probably get it. That's from my point of view. What would you say?
I think Gabriel is a good shout.
Yeah.
As much as he's been solid for Arsenal at the back, they're using corners like we do, and they score as much, if not just a bit more set pieces than we do. As Everton, I think they scored 26 and we scored 22 last season. But they found a good sweet spot with Gabriel. He's a tall lad, athletic. He's athletic, so he gets up high, quick, and he's powerful with his headers. And he has been finding a spot for them, hasn't he? Against City, against Tottenham. Yeah, I think they found a good routine there. I think he's a good shout. Harvey Barnes, Stuart, I think it's good to see him back amongst the players of the month, because for Leicester he was fantastic. Going to Newcastle, he had his injuries, didn't he? And I think a lot of players at Newcastle had. But it's good to see him show his worth again. Hopefully, obviously not on the weekend, because obviously we're playing him. I think shout it's going to be Cole Palmer, I think, most definitely. But then I think it's quite close with Gabriel, because I think he's been fantastic as well. This last couple of weeks, he's scoring goals as well as being fantastic in defence. He's still a good shout. It's unlucky for Dwight McNeil. He's in a hard sort of play of the month.
Absolutely. Luis Diaz, 4 goals. He's been brilliant. I've got to praise him. Ryan Gravenberg, obviously, with Ryan Gravenberg, he's playing in number 6, isn't he? So we've seen about him in that position, and his performance has been really good under Slot, fellow Dutchman, obviously. So again, they've tried to mix it up, haven't they, with positions, not just your goals and assists and clean sheets and things like that. Raul Jimenez, Chris, in good form. I want to talk about Fulham in a bit, just how well they've started. I won't say that yet. Raul Jimenez has looked good. I mean, he deserves his spot there as well. So, yeah, I think we're both looking at Cole Palmer then to take it this month.
Yeah, I think this is because of what he did, Stuart. I think you don't see many players in 20 minutes do what he did. And obviously, it wasn't just him. It was, I think Nicholas Jackson should be in this as well.
Yeah.
Because he was fantastic, and he was setting up, a lot of the goals for Cole Palmer in that game. But I suppose you can't go off one game. We're going for a month, aren't we? But like I said, it's unfortunate for Dwight McNeil. He's in a strong group there. Any other month, I think maybe he might have got it, just for the pure and simple the goal he scored.
Based not on that. So much criteria though with those 8 players.
Yeah,
it depends what you like, doesn't it? Like I say, Gravenberg's been brilliant in the number 6.
I like Gravenberg.
He stepped up under Slot. It's I know the Liverpool fans are very, very happy with that, and they've had a good start as well. The top, aren't they, of course?
Yeah.
The Forest loss. They've managed to come back from that. Forest played it perfectly as well. They had to go at them. They didn't just sit back, did they? But Liverpool, I think they'll be quite happy that City and Arsenal drew.
Well, City have drawn twice now, haven't they? Listen, it's early days. We know what it's like. There's always a bit of a lull, isn't there? Like, you think, oh, hold on, are they faltering a bit this season? But all of a sudden, bang, Stuart, and then all these sort of teams go on a massive run, and then you forget about the 2 draws that we've just had, or the draw against each other previously. And they do what they always do in Man City. Once what they're like a freight train, aren't they? Once they get going, it's hard.
John Scott, who's obviously covered for you a couple of times when you were unable to do the show. Afternoon, lads. Since last time I was on, Johnson has been getting a lot of stick. He's been on fire since. And his response to Keyboard Warriors punched them in the nose. They won't do it again. Johnson's got 5 in 5 games now off the back of all the stick he was getting. And Solanke was getting it. Solanke scored, didn't he, on the weekend as well. So, yeah, John, Spurs are going relatively well again now. They've hit the form. Fantastic win at Old Trafford as well. Yeah. How many yards did they want Van der Ven to marauder into before that goal? I couldn't believe it. If that was Everton, I'd be going mad. I know Spurs absolutely smashed us.
Hold on, Stuart, though. He did it against us. Yeah. We ran pretty much from the corner to set up a goal, did Van der Ven. He's fantastic as Van der Ven, and he's known for that. You don't give people like that space, and you'd think United wouldn't. We're not as big as and have better players than United, but But Spurs are doing well, and I'm happy for Johnson. I'm lucky for Richarlison. Maybe he can come back. Maybe he can come back now they're not using him.
And then John again. Thanks, lads. Keep up the great work. Cheers, John. I'll be back on for FM, I hope, on release. So he wants to come on. I think
the release
day. Do that episode. Because I don't know if I'm going to be getting it or not. But I know a lot of people
most definitely, John. I think but that is because obviously there's a lot of hoo-ha with the delay, and obviously they're moving to Unity, and obviously everything's going to be different. They have dropped out the international football as a manager this season. Women's is coming in this season. We haven't really seen much gameplay or pictures really. I've seen the odd one, but nothing you can really make anything out of.
Someone moaning about the screen and the way they've done it, the layout, I think.
Right, all that, yeah. But you know what? At the end of the day, it needed a bit of a revamp. Unity's going to give it a fantastic look, especially when you're watching the games. I just think, instead of moaning about it, Football Manager it's been consistent for years.
Yeah, it's time. It's time, like you say, just get it, rejig some things, freshen it up. Absolutely. I'm not gonna talk about fixtures just because of time constraints.
No, you can. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I'll pull the table up. I think, we've spoken about the top four. I think Chelsea, I've got to be fair. I said I couldn't see them being top four. I know there's 32 games to go. Yeah, I know it's early days, but I think Enzo Maresca's had a solid start there. I didn't think Chelsea would be where they are early on, but they've had a really good start, haven't they?
I think, obviously, considering the last couple of seasons, they've spent big, haven't they? And things haven't gone to plan. And I think, obviously, good old Todd's been buying everybody who he wanted like it's a lottery, or he's playing Football Manager with £1 billion, in the transfer kitty, literally, because obviously they spent over that. But I think obviously getting Enzo in, he must have gone to them and saying, "I'm signing my players. I don't want interference. I'm running the football side of things." It seems like that because he's got the players up and running. He's got rid of the players he didn't want, and I think if he's allowed to do what he does, you'll probably see Chelsea go back to, I wouldn't say back to former glory, because there's still a long way for them to return to that, because obviously a lot of the teams above have got better and better, and I think Chelsea have lost a step or two, in all the transition they've had, but they have got fantastic players, and a lot of them still to come through as well, if they do come through.
Madueke obviously scored all them goals against Wolves. He looks sharp.
Yeah.
He had quite a lot of chances against Brighton, actually. But I think he's going to be good for goals. Like you alluded to earlier, Jackson's looking good, looking a bit sharper. He's putting chances away a bit more. I know Chelsea fans had said to me, he's too many chances. A bit of a Darwin Núñez scenario where they create the chances but don't put them away. But he seems to be pretty good, doesn't he? Obviously, Cole Palmer, Chris.
Yeah, unstoppable. I think, and that's probably been the best signing out of anybody that's gone to any English club as an English player in the last, what would you say, 5 or 6 years, that has actually shown the quality straight away. I think sometimes it doesn't matter if it's a foreign or an English player, they have to bed into the new side, the different styles and what have you. He's just come in with a rocket, and I feel like if you're a Man City fan now, do you wish you didn't sell him? Do you wish you were still at City? Would there still be a place? Because I think for 40 million and all the players that have gone for a lot more, Stuart, and haven't shown anything near what Cole Palmer has, that's a steal.
Unquestionable, to be able to do it as much as he does it now. You just expect it. You just expect him to score, don't you? You expect to see his name. Do you know what, Chris? I said about Fulham, because we were talking about Jimenez being in the nominees for Player of the Month. What a start for Fulham. Emile Smith-Rowe looked really, really good as well. Coming in, it's big move for him, wasn't it? A lot of injury issues at Arsenal, but he's looking very good, and I'm very impressed with Fulham. They sold Anderson, didn't they? Tosin had gone. They were big players at the back for him, but they've had a really good start. I've been really impressed with Marco Silva. For them to have 11 points from 6, they're nearly on 2 points a game. A fantastic start for Fulham, isn't it?
To be honest with you, Stu, I like Marco Silva when he was at Watford. Obviously, complications there, but Watford, Watford are like when it comes to managers anyway. And then he obviously came to us, wasn't given enough chances, and I think again he was having players bought above his head that he didn't want. He got sacked off there. He's gone to Fulham, and as you say, he's lost players, but he signed really good ones in replace. And I think Smith-Rowe, when they signed him this season, it was a really good signing. And I think, you're looking back for the years when he did play for Arsenal and he wasn't injured, and how creative he was in that number 10 to the wing role. And, you saw the glimpses. And I don't think Arsenal really wanted to get rid of him, because I think, I still think they loved him at Arsenal. And I think if there was a spot for Smith-Rowe at Arsenal, he'd still be there, obviously. But I think there was a lot of love there, and I don't think they really wanted to get rid of him. But the lad needs games. He's still young, And there's a lot of talent there, which you see now going to Fulham. And I think he just links up really well with their style, with Iwobi as well. Obviously, we know Iwobi very well. And I think he's got even better since he's gone to Fulham, because I think he's been allowed to do more of the stuff that he wanted to do when he was at Arsenal before he came to us and became more defensive. they've just got a solid team, and I think they've got a lot of flair players like Pereira, in and around, and as you say, Raul Jimenez. He's always scored goals, though. You know what I mean? And I think even after his bad injury, I think it didn't take him that long really to come back, and it took him a good couple of months to get back into the swing of things. But he's always scored goals, and he did for Wolves. So I mean, I'm not surprised. Marco Silva's doing really well. I think everyone below them now, minus Tottenham because they've gathered some momentum. Brighton seem to have lost a tiny bit. Forest is great to see up there.
They're doing very well. He had a strong bench in games. You were looking on the bench, Hudson-Odoi to come off there as well. And not much as that, Chris Wood has been in the goals, hasn't he?
Yeah, he just can't stop
Gibbs White, I'm a big fan of Gibbs White as well, Chris. But yeah, like you say, they've had a solid start considering where they were. They were down the bottom of us last season, weren't they? So yeah.
West Ham, Stuart, I was going to say before you move on. That's a shocker.
Yeah.
Considering the amount of players they've bought, the money they've spent, don't forget now they got rid of David Moyes for Lopetegui. I personally don't think it's working with Lopetegui. That's just a shocker. I just think, obviously, I don't know what the issue is, but I don't see him being at West Ham for too long.
I'm getting like Pellegrini vibes here. Obviously, I know Pellegrini at City and that. Lopetegui's done what he's done, isn't he, in Spain? I'm getting that same sort of scenario because it didn't work out for Pellegrini there, did it either?
No.
It's hard sometimes. It's a tough one. He has had a bit of money to spend as well. I'm as shocked as you, really. Again, it's early, isn't it? It's so early, but you're looking at it. Ipswich have had 4 draws. A fantastic point against Villa on the weekend. Liam Delap with 2 goals, obviously the City loanee. Kieran McKenna, I think he'd be relatively happy. But again, if one of them draws is a win, they're pushing it. You know what I mean? It's because they've had the 4 draws, isn't it? But they've looked good. They've looked good in games. They've looked all right. And there we are down there again at the moment.
Hey, listen. If you spoke to us, 2 weeks ago, we had 0 points. So things are turning for us. I don't like that -8. That's horrible.
Not considering how strong we were at the back, but obviously with Jared out, it was perfectly clear, wasn't it?
Yeah, but again, obviously being out again.
He's not fully fit yet either.
No,
he looked a bit ropey early on. It's to be expected. He once he gets to his peak of his powers again. But again, Chris,
Stuart as well.
Yeah. Gary O'Neill, bless him, because he's had the rug pulled from under him. Lopetegui had the rug pulled from under him there, didn't he? He was selling players, but I think Gary O'Neill more so. More players have gone. Max Kilman, I know West Ham is struggling, but he was
40
huge.
million, wasn't it? Yeah.
He was huge for Wolves at the back. Again, I just look at it. It's early. It's early doors. Palace, Glasner, when he came in, at the start of the year, they looked really good. I wasn't expecting them to be so.
I don't think they had a really good summer strip, considering losing Eze. I mean, I think there's a fundamental part with Elise. No, it's Elise, sorry, that went. Eze's still there. My bad, sorry. Elise was fantastic, and Eze, but them together were a menace. And I think when they played us last weekend, I think that you saw the difference, and it's not there. The flair that they have, they're missing it, and I feel like Eze's doing a lot more of the work. I thought Nketiah against us was dreadful in the second half, particularly. Like, he wasn't really interested, and he was getting pushed off the ball quite easily. As you say, it's early days, so you can't really.
Some fans reckon we're getting 9 points out of the next 4, not with Newcastle and Fulham in that 4. That's not me being defeatist. I think that's very bold what some of our fans are saying. I was like, 9 points. I don't see it. I'd love it. I'd love it by all means. I see 2 wins from the next 4, maybe.
Is it Fulham? Is it Newcastle at home and Fulham away?
Yeah. But some fans are saying we can get a point tomorrow in the late kickoff.
No, we'll beat Newcastle tomorrow. I said this on the Unholy Trinity podcast on Sunday. But they all went for smaller results. I think Mike went for a draw. I went for 3-0 against you. I want to keep the positive. I want to keep the positivity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I obviously now knowing that Jared Branthwaite's out for the game is slightly probably pulled me down to about a 2-1 now, because I think without Branthwaite, I think if we go Michael Keane and Tarkowski, it might be more difficult. But there's no Isak and there's no Callum Wilson, so I feel a bit more. You can breathe a bit more.
He could have played O'Brien in games, couldn't he? But
I think he's having a problem apparently, so finding it hard he's finding it difficult to settle in. Nothing that I think
no,
don't go through.
It's a new club. He's not been in the Premier League for a long time. He was at Palace, wasn't he?
Prior? Yeah, flew into Lyon. Yeah.
Brady's saying that West Ham could go down if they're not careful.
Yeah, I think other than against Villa that first game, and I think it was a terrific opening, wasn't it, for Villa, and especially Onana, who scored in his debut. But I think that's the last game I've really seen West Ham really play well. I think they've been sloppy. They don't look like. I think they look like us sometimes. You know, when it goes to port and you think, do they actually know what they're doing? And I think the more onus on West Ham. I know they've got 5 points, one more than us, but they spent a lot more money than we have, and it just doesn't seem to be clicking.
Tadibo, and a player that's been touted. I was looking at that signing, but again, he's got to adapt. He's come from where he's come from, but he was a signing on Football Manager for many years for me on loan and things. Yeah. Again, they've got to settle in. It's like Lindstrom for us. Oh, he's weak. He's this, that, and the other. He's come from another league. Give him a bit of time. It will come. I think we're far too quick to jump on people sometimes, especially newer players that haven't been in the Prem before. That's what I think.
Well, don't forget, Lindstrom hardly played for Napoli last season.
No, this is it.
And he's also not playing in his position. You got to look at Njai and Lindstrom at number 10s, really. I know they can play in the wing, and I know Lindstrom can play further back in central. But, you've got to learn. The Premier League isn't like Italy or Spain. Germany, I think, is very close by to the style we play in the Premier League. But he's got to, he'll understand. He's got to be a bit more stronger. He's got to open his eyes a bit more. And I think Southampton game when he could have passed it through to a Beto a few times. But, the Leicester game, you saw what he can do. And then you can see the talent is there. It's just confidence with him. Once he's got to knack of the Premier League, hopefully, it's not too later in the season. But either way, he'll get there. And I think he's too much of a talent in there that I think that it's going to be one of them where you think, oh, not good enough for the Premier League. I think he'll be good enough. As you say, people need time. Some players obviously don't work out, and I think, unfortunately, and I love Beto, I think that's one I don't think is quality is good enough for the Premier League.
John just saying about Football Manager there, Chris. So he said there November for this as well. 26th of November is the latest pushback. And lots of fears from fans about it. But I'm keeping an open mind. Obviously, the pending release for Football Manager, as we were speaking about.
Like I said to you before, I'm seeing a lot. I'm on a lot of the forums and then the pages on Facebook and Twitter and what have you. I listen and I read, but I look at it as, look, it's a change. I think everyone's a bit frightened because of the change and a few bits that they've cut out this season. It doesn't mean they're not coming back. 5% of people, they said, used international football on the game. 5%. But people are complaining about it. But if you don't use it and only 5% do, it can take a back seat for the year. Why, they work this one out.
I'm old enough for change. Into CM4, there was some backlash. Then a year later, we got CMO 102, enough said. So, yeah, just saying,
exactly.
Like you're saying, time for a change. The game has been the game, the format, the database, the writing, all that sort of stuff that I've seen people moaning about. Sometimes a change is as good as a rest, as the age-old adage goes, Chris.
I completely agree. And I think for Football Manager, they needed that. You've got to remember, right? We didn't have players on the pitch. It was just text. And then it went to little circle dots on the pitch. And then we went to players. So, you know what I mean? It's slowly progressed with Football Manager. But, you know what I mean? We all love the database side. It wasn't about watching it on the telly. It's just your team, isn't it? And the database and finding all these young players or wonder kids, should we say. You know what I mean? And then finding them in real life and to see how they're doing. But I think it'll be fine. I think people will play it. And I think people, you know what I mean? They might not love it because it's obviously the first transition. But, you know, come next year's one, I think they'll all be jumping for it.
It's like FIFA, wasn't it? You know, everyone was saying, "Oh my god!" But yeah, people are still. I think a lot of people are still playing it. What have you? Brady's saying, "You guys heard there could be a third transfer window brought in." I suppose with all these extra games that we were talking about earlier, and we were paraphrasing about, it could very well be, couldn't it? But at first, I've heard of it. To be fair, Brady,
I've heard that they're looking at maybe closing the window earlier again next season in August. Like earlier August, which I still think is stupid because it didn't work out right the last time they did it, hence why it only stayed in for a season. But I have heard that they're looking at finishing the transfer window or closing it, before the first game of the season. Again, it doesn't work because everyone else's window is still open. So unless you're closing the window with everybody at the same time, it doesn't work for me. With the new another transfer window bringing in Brady, I don't know if that would work. Because bigger clubs like City, Uniteds, the Liverpools, the Arsenals can go and swoop in and buy one of your best players, you know, and you can't replace them, and then you're fucked then, aren't you? Essentially. So I think we should keep just the two windows, the summer and the winter one. Personally,
the performance of the week, just going back to that as well. Villa's fantastic win against Bayern Munich. What a night. What an atmosphere. I had the radio on in work for the first half. Incredible.
Does it make you jealous?
Sorry?
Does it make you jealous?
I just think like they've done it. We've said about Villa coming back up, you know, the chips were down. They did championship, didn't they, right? They've come back up and they've done amazing. And they're good to watch as well. And, you know, Brady was only saying last week when we were out, Douglas Luiz going, he was gutted about it. But I tell you what, the way they've done it, the way they've got people in, you know, it's just run so bloody well. I wouldn't say I'm jealous, but I like Villa. I like Villa.
What I mean is, though, Stu, I don't mean jealous of the. Obviously, we're jealous of the football, but I mean it's like the European nights.
Oh my God, yeah, I miss. Although you know we didn't get to Champions League, did we? With the issues that happened with that.
Yeah, we got corrected out of that one.
Europa League, we used to love it, didn't we? On a Thursday, you know, it was good.
Yeah.
It was some good games. I remember specifically going away to Wolfsburg. You know, they had KDB in the team, and we were going there and winning, weren't we? Lukaku was. They played really well, but even predating that, you know, the Moyes era, we was good. I thought we were going to get into the final that year, obviously when Zanuck went on to win it, but we beat them in the group stage, didn't we?
Yeah, Tim Cahill.
It was Rangers and them in the final, wasn't it? City of Manchester. But
yeah,
I do miss it. In answer to your question, I'm just hopeful that this Friedkin era will prevail and it'll all work out how we want it to. I know you said on the Unholy Trinity you liked his way of doing it, where Texter was saying he was going to do this, that, and the other. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, I don't enjoy.
I'm paraphrasing you here. Like you said, he's talking, you know, in the present, like he's already in charge.
Yeah.
He had to shift his shares anyway. That was going to take time to do. That was never going to be cut and dry. And like you said, the Friedkin thing, there was weirings of it that he was going to come back in. But again, it was kept under the radar, as you said to Mike and the guys.
Yeah, and I think we all prefer chairmans just to be quiet. And no disrespect to John Texter, because he probably had, you know, his heart in the right place. I don't need a maverick. We've had Farhad Mashiri and Bill Cumright, and I think that's enough now. We need a chairman that will just do the chairman stuff and let the people do the football side of things and leave them well alone. And I think he'd done that with Roma. I think, obviously, we talked about, didn't we, on Unholy, about De Rossi going and then their CEO obviously leaving because of the aftermath of it. I'd pinch her now and I'd be saying, because she's meant to be very, very good, come to Liverpool, come to Everton and get her in as CEO because that benefits us then. But I think it's the ultra thing in Italy. You don't get that over here in the UK. But, I think they'll do well enough. And you know what? I think they'll turn a profit with Roma. They'll sell them to these Saudis who seem to be floating around looking at Roma. And they'll move on to someone else, in a portfolio along with us. I just think that's just a generation of, what chairmans are doing now is getting a big portfolio, work around players. And I think we'll be okay under them. I'm still a bit skeptical because we've had so much shit, for so long. It's hard to believe anyone's going to come in and pull us, from the hell we're in.
They don't want the stadium as a separate entity, do they? They want the club. The fans want it to be owned within the club. They don't want that as their piece of the pie. I've heard some people saying about that. They're worried about that they would separately have that. That's theirs. Obviously, we need all the income coming in. We need that revenue stream. The naming rights as well, which we've never had before. It's all these revenue sources, isn't it? Then it's going to be how many, other events will come there. I know for the Euros, it's in there, isn't it? It's a venue. It's just all the revenue sources that we're going to get off the back of it. It's the one thing that Mashiri's done right, Chris, because he hasn't really done much else.
Yeah, I think that's probably.
You can't knock the guy for that. He made
mine is the financing, Stuart. I think the financing wouldn't be fucked like we are now if he financed it properly.
Toyota, I was laughing about Toyota.
Yeah, but you know what, Toyota. It's not my brand and it's not my type of car, but it's still a massive thing in America. And if you can use that don't call it Toyota Ground or Toyota Arena because I'll lose my marbles. I don't want it Americanized, but the sponsorship you can get from Toyota, because obviously people drive Toyotas and you see them around in Britain. So brilliant. Let's get them over. I have heard as well, Stuart, 5 companies have offered naming rights for the ground, and they're meant to have been big, offers.
It's huge for us. We've got to get with it now. And if that means, you can go to the highest bidder as well. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be
you definitely would.
It's going to be lengthy, the name, isn't it? The amount of time, the contract and stuff like that. So it's just everything, the whole match day experience I'm looking forward to, because Aramark doing the food and beverage, obviously it's going to be pricey, but food and beverage has been crap at Goodison for years.
Yeah, and the brands they've got in now.
I would much rather companies come in, local businesses, and do the food, but obviously they're not. They want a big pull, don't they?
Yeah, makes sense.
But you get better food with these food trucks and stuff. You would, but obviously the club want to make the money, don't they, off the food, which you can understand. But hopefully that'll be an improvement, won't it?
Next year,
you want to go beforehand. You want to, experience it. It's just everything. It encapsulates everything. Brady again. I said to Stu when we're out that you need to clear the boardroom out and get people who have the club at heart and move you forward. That's what our owners did when they came in. You obviously said about the CEO of Roma. That'd be a big start, wouldn't it, Chris? Just alluding to what Brady's saying.
Yeah, most definitely. And I totally agree with Stuart. I think everyone in its dog knows that Everton needed a complete board that's fresh and understands football, the sponsorship side. Because you look at most complaints when Everton are abroad, you get these tents, don't you, of all the, say in America now, when teams are pre-season, you got like an Arsenal one that's a massive, say like a mansion size, and ours looks like a small tent from Home Bargains next to it. Do you know what I mean? We want bigger. You want to get enough sponsorship, especially in Asia, in America, especially in America, because we've had so many American players and we never utilised these players that we've had. Tim Cahill in Australia didn't use it enough. When we had James Rodriguez, didn't do enough with his name that we could have brought in more brands or, bigger tents, bigger pictures of him everywhere. And obviously we did the stadiums, Wall Street and Bugatti, didn't we, on the building? But we got to be better. These are the ways you make more money. Is better sponsorships, better advertisements. I can only see that Freakland's going to probably give his son the role like he's had in Roma, because I think he's more of the back seat of it. This is only the idea. Like, I don't know personally.
No, but if it was that'd be the way you do it.
Yeah. And obviously you had to have him like an underlining, wouldn't you, underneath, making sure everything stays the way it is. And then you go for people that have, I mean, I know Brady says about heart in the right place. I'm not bothered as long as they know their job and they know what they're doing. We're not hiring Bill's mates from Coronation Street to come and do a job, or getting an ex-player on the board when really they can't do anything, and they're a mouthpiece for a certain chairman who's passed away that obviously everyone fell out with.
It was like Alan Stubbs, the way he was treated.
Neville Southall.
It was all. It's just so wrong, and they've totally lost touch of it, and that's our history. Then players, you need to have your club legends and the top players that we had over the years in and around it, and they know Everton. They know Everton as much as the fans. They're fans of Everton, and
I know, I totally agree.
The lifeblood, like the legends, as much as the fans are. It was. They can't be having that. You can't be having that. I know other legends are treated correctly, but some weren't. The whole thing was hawk-eyed. Well, he said things that they didn't like, but he was only telling the truth.
Yeah, but Bill didn't like that. He had a narrative, didn't he?
Yeah.
I'd get Alan Myers back. That would be my first appointment. Get Alan Myers back and get him doing what he does on the socials, and again, like he did for Everton before he left. Get him back and get him doing all the communication, from Everton to the fans, because obviously we all know that the communication between the club and us is terrible. Go and get him back and get him to do that job, and I think Everton will start, coming back, slowly but surely, baby steps and all that. I don't think it's going to happen overnight.
No chance. It's a long-term thing, absolutely. They can piss off about the leaky roof as well. And it was like the Lonsdale Stadium. Here we go. That will get sorted out. I thought, I'm not having this Old Trafford style bashing. That ground's ancient. It's just something that they can sort out because they're still working on things there.
It's a building site, Stuart.
Yeah, I know. But we were getting it, weren't we? I was like, here we go. There's a bit of water coming down, but not a bit of water. It was a deluge of water, but hey-ho. It's, as you say, there's still bits need ironing out. They've got to do the test event yet and all that.
Yeah, of course.
It's still very early. We've still got time, and they made the right decision waiting until the following season as well, didn't they?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think we were a bit gutted because I think we would have liked to see that ground now. I think we're all pretty much ready to get rid of Goodison, and as much as it's sad, and it's sad to me because obviously we've had a lot of ups and downs there, but a lot of great memories. But I feel like we need to leave Goodison because I just feel like it's more of a pest now, and we need to move on and start newer memories because I think the last couple of years it's like I think it's time we put it to bed. I mean, that's my opinion. Yours might be completely different.
No, I've not been. I think I was getting angry. There's anger watching games sometimes. You never want that. You can be upset when there's been a mistake and the players are giving it 110%, which for the most part they do. Yeah. But sometimes it's just like some of the manners, the way we've been getting beaten, especially off corners, dead balls, where we weren't the goals weren't going in like that, and you can put it all on Jared because Jared's not there. But again, they're training all week, and I think the set pieces and crosses where we were conceding, like I said to Brady last week, like the Watkins one, Keane's got to be heading that one away. I'm sorry, like that was as well as he did to head it in, just little bits, but hopefully,
but those are things
we're going up now. Fingers
crossed.
Those
are things you would say Sean Dyche normally irons out. I'm going to ask you this actually. The first half of last week's game against Palace, I generally thought he'd lost the players at this point.
Yeah.
I generally did.
I agree, and I've been on his side a lot. A lot of people like we need to get a new manager, which I understand. But I think he's had it hard, and then
he has.
He has worked bloody wonders, but again, I think from other standpoints of people and taking on board what they're saying. It's like, how much further can he take it? And freaking, if you're getting rid of Rossi, who was a club legend, might I add, at Roma, before taking the job. I mean, they drawn 3, lost 1, and he was gone. You know what I mean? Not necessarily the worst record in the world there, but I think it kind of gives you a precursor to what might happen with Dyche once Friedkin's fully in control.
Well, considering his contract is up next season, or a lot of people at the club's contracts are up next season, aren't they? I think the right thing to do here would probably keep him till the end of the season. Thank you very much, Dyche. You've saved us 2 seasons in a row. Hopefully this season isn't as bad, and it's just, a middle table 15, 16 finish, but comfortable. Thank you for all you've done. And then we move on. But we have a plan in place. There's a plan, Stu. We get a manager with a plan. Kevin Farewell's still there, or we go and get another director of football. We get an alignment. There's a plan. And we get the style of players what suit the manager, not just because this guy's available, and we go and offer them 20 million for him. And he's not.
Tell you what, mate, Njai. Oh my days! Defensively as well, helping Michelangelo out.
He's good.
Unbelievable. He's really endeared himself to the fan base, hasn't he? Very early on, he's exciting going forward. Like I say, like probably the best since potentially since Stephen Pienaar.
On the left-hand side, yeah.
We haven't had that. And like you said, I think McNeil, you alluded to it on Holy Trinity. He's not blessed with pace.
No.
McNeil. And he's done a great job in that position. But I think, fingers crossed, this continues in this number 10 for him. But he just seems better suited. And it does potentially take the pressure off DCL or whoever's playing up front if he can keep getting the goals.
Well, yeah, because I think, he's driving, isn't he? You couldn't really say, if you took Jai out now, who drives at the defence like he does? No one does, because they panic, don't they? And it's triangle pass, isn't it? Or it's back and forwards. And then it's a panic cross to DCL, and the ball's, miles too high up. And then, we're back up against it again. It's been good. But I think with Njai is like, I don't think of him as a winger, more as like an inside forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think he's got a bit more freedom than a left winger would normally have. But I think that opens up space for Dwight McNeil then. And I think when Harrison came on over Lindstrom against Palace, you saw his driving was then pulling Wharton, towards him, giving space to McNeil. Because obviously, I think that's what we need is we need to give McNeil enough space so he can, because his passing's good when he gets it pinpoint. And I think you'll see that work. And I think him and Calvert-Lewin will connect. I'm still worried about the whole Calvert-Lewin situation.
Absolutely, because he could go for nothing next summer here.
Or for nothing pretty much in January, because,
Yeah, he won't.
You're looking, 10 million maybe, if I'm still wanting him in January?
As patchy as he can be, that's a snip. For someone will, if it comes that far, which it's looking highly likely, someone will come in at that price.
And I think he's over his injuries now. I think people always say about Calvert-Lewin, he's a good player, but he gets injured too much. And I'm like, he hasn't been injured for 2 seasons solid now.
I think that Dyche has helped. I know training can be a bit intense. So you're worried about players getting injured. But yeah, like you say.
But he holds them back, though, doesn't he?
And if he has been out, it was like 1 or 2 games, not half the season.
That's right.
2/3 of the season. So in that respect, Dyche has done some good stuff. I think as well, we've got competition now in centre mid, which we didn't have, and competition up top as well. Mangala, I think a bit of time with him. The Forest.
He's tidy on the ball. I like him. I like his.
I think Tim needed a bit of a breather because he put a lot into the early games as well. He's trying to protect him, Irigabuman. You can see. I think we've got competition in the middle, which we didn't have before. Decore annoyed me. Why did he stop? That would have been the game over.
I agree. I was going to mention that to you. Why did he cut through? Instead of going straight line
from outside the box, he totally had a brain fart, I think.
But if he got in front of him, he wouldn't be able to have made that tackle then because it would have been a penalty. Obviously, you don't know if it was offside, but
I know, mate. I know.
I don't like Mangala and Decore in the middle. I think you go Tim, Adrissa, or Garner.
Yeah.
I don't think Decore's got the legs anymore for that role.
He's done some great stuff for us.
Oh, of course he has. I don't knock him for that.
The Leicester goal will always be there, won't it? In the hallowed halls, the club.
Yeah.
And the goals he put in 18 months ago, 2 years ago as well. When we were really struggling. It's just players have dips, but again, I think in the middle there we have got choice, which we haven't had.
The left and right back
It worked really well in the window, didn't they? Fell, he
left alone to do it. Left alone to do it, Stuart. Yeah. This is when you haven't got Paul and Bill Cunright interfering and signing flipping agents' mates. You know what I mean? They had obviously an idea of what players they wanted and obviously went for it. And I think that's what we need to do going forward, is let the people on the football side do their job.
It's not the buddies. It's not the buddies club, is it? You know what I mean?
No, it's not.
We want the best, and we want the players that need to be there. But yeah, all being well, it should be okay. Just before we go, how good is the Championship at the top at the moment? Sunderland at top. You got West Brom up there as well. It's very tight. It's very tight in that top half. Again, what we come to expect. A long way to go for them. I mean, they've got 40 games, but I've enjoyed seeing some of the highlights and bits on Sky Sports News of the Championship.
Actually, I haven't paid too much attention to the Championship. I think I've been obviously bashing my head by Everton the last 6 games, should we say. But it's good to see Sunderland up there. You know what I mean? They went through when they got relegated from the Prem, and obviously the documentary that came out on Netflix, and it opened the doors to how badly run it was and all these players that wouldn't leave. And they went through a lot of crisis, but it looks like they've turned a corner and they're signing the right players, Stuart, the right sort of talent, young players. Dan Neil, Stuart, I think he's going to be a fantastic player in years to come, still young in that centre midfield. You got, Joby Bellingham. Is he going to be? Oh no, I don't think he's going to be good as his brother, but he can make a name for himself. Barr, who plays for Sunderland, another young French talent there. So they're picking up these.
Jack Clark, is it?
Yeah, Jack Clark's there. I think he was Tottenham, wasn't he, at one point when he was younger? I think they signed him for quite big money, didn't they, back in the day? But it's the right philosophy. Is buying young, getting these hungry players in, Stuart, and it can change. You've seen it with Brighton. You've seen it now with Arsenal. That things conspire when you don't buy the right players and you go through what we bought when we had all that money and we bought useless players.
This is it. Yeah, we just got to turn the corner, haven't we? Again, Burnley is second. Scott Parker's had a good start there. Obviously, Company went to Bayern. So, yeah, they're on 17. They're only a point behind. Sheffield United haven't lost a game yet. 5 wins, 3 draws in third. West Brom going well. 16 points. Leeds, Blackburn, who had a good, the Blackburn have been quite good the last couple of years, haven't they? They lost Smodics, but they're 6th at the moment.
Almost got relegated last season, mind you.
Yeah. And then I want to just make reference to Tom Cannon scoring 4 times for Stoke against Portsmouth as well. That was like 6-1, and that was relatively early on when they got the 6. But well done, Tom Cannon. He's on loan at Stoke, and big win for them. And they're obviously trying to get at the table as well. So yeah, good to see one of our former players finding goals in at Championship level. He's got talent. There's no question.
He did have talent, Stuart. I think it's just a shame that he got sold because of the crisis that our own owners put us in, that we had to sell these decent up-and-coming youth players. Look at Ishii that went to Chelsea. I had high hopes of him. And, he looked like a really good left-back, which we blooming well need, let's be honest, because there's not an abundance of good left-backs at Everton at the moment. He went Cannon as well, didn't he? And look at Ellis Sims, who's doing really well for Coventry. It's a shame that they're not sort of still with us at some, on loan or something like that. But, Tom Cannon's making a name for himself now. And good for him. And, I'm happy for him. And I hope he gets, he carries on and and he gets up to the Premier League at
Look
some point.
how many players have gone down there or been in there, been in lower leagues and come into the Prem and score goals. Yeah, it's all about getting those minutes in, isn't it? And if you have to take a step down, so be it. And fantastic. Chris, social media for the show before we go, mate, before we close out, please.
Yeah, so we're on all the social medias you all know. I'm sure we all know them now. So football then and now is on X, Twitter, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, you name it, we're on it. And all you have to search is Football Now and Then. We are on your audio spots everywhere you need to go for it. Audio, if you rather listen to us through your headphones or on a walk, in the car, because me and Stuart have some sexy voices that you want to hear us through those headphones. We're there. And obviously the videos, they're on our Football Now and Now page on Facebook. They're on our Football Now and Then YouTube. We are everywhere on any platform that you use to watch a video or audio. Come check us out. Give us some of your comments where you think that we need to sort of do better, or something you want to talk about football that we can talk about and discuss with everybody else.
Perfect. A big thank you to the Sports Social Podcast Network, as always, Chris.
Yeah, definitely.
So 500 shows and counting, and that's only going to grow, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Again, you can find a myriad of shows on there, and there's big names. I know Joe Marler, obviously from rugby, he's got his show on there, and many, many others. And thank you to them for their continued support for our show. And obviously the Unholy Trinity there with Mike and the lads.
Yeah, they're on there. Yeah,
Everton podcast, the lads are on there as well. So yeah, just fantastic and good to be back on, mate.
It's good to be back in properly.
Talk at length as well about things, and we'll be back very, very soon for episode 29 of Football Then and Now. A nostalgic episode we're going to have to do.
Yes, going back.
Long overdue. The namesake and all that, obviously, we've had the topics today to talk about, but we will get some nostalgia for you. Football Manager as well, the new one due to come out. I know John would like to come on to speak about that. I'll have that as well in subsequent shows forthcoming. And we'll see you very, very soon for episode 29 of Football Then and Now.
See ya.
Football Then and Now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.